Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another fragrance review, and today I'm going to be talking about a new fragrance from Gallagher Fragrances, and that is Rosé Noir. So stay tuned for that. If you like first impressions, fragrance reviews, clone comparisons, and top 10 lists, hit that subscribe button for more content. So if you watch the channel, you already know I'm a fan of Gallagher, and I love Rosé all day. This is one of my favorites. Gourmand fragrances. I love, this has this really great, rich apple pie kind of a feel, so it does fit in with those other fragrances like Angel Share, Wajan, Ombre Narguile, although it does certainly smell distinctly different from those fragrances. I still love this one nonetheless. It's actually one of my favorite, if not my favorite, from that list. And so when there was a flanker being released, of course I wanted to try it out, and that is Rosé Noir. Now, the biggest difference between this one and this one is that there's leather and oud in this one. Now, I had no idea how this was actually going to play out. I was thinking maybe it would have sort of undertones of leather and oud, but still maintain a lot of the characteristics, the qualities that this one does have. I couldn't have been more wrong. So I was actually very, very surprised on first sniff of this fragrance. And I would say that, a lot of times, for a lot of people, you don't really even pick up the Rosé all day DNA. Now, I will say that after wearing this a couple of times, it's there. But the first time that I actually put this on, I got a huge kick in the face of leather. Very, very strong, prominent, that sort of industrial type of leather. It doesn't come across like a smooth suede or like a leather couch that, for me, ombre leather can smell like. It doesn't smell like a brick, like Tuscan leather. If anything, it did remind me a little bit of Royal Leather by Kilian. So it also has this very slick, high quality, but sort of, it feels like the kind of leather you might smell at a factory where they're, tanning the leather or whatever. So it has that very slick kind of a feel to it. And I definitely get that in the opening. Now, having worn this several more times, the leather is not super dominant, but definitely, it is the strongest note in the opening. But when I first put this on, that's all I could smell. I did not smell anything but that. It was just a kick in the face of leather. But after wearing a couple of times, the Rosé All Day DNA is there, albeit very much in the background. So I do get a little bit of that sort of brown, sugary, sweet, slightly syrupy vibe that I get with this one, very, very much in the forefront. But in this one, it's really toned back, really taken back. And there is a hint of this nice apple, cinnamony, sweet kind of an edge that it has, which is actually really, really nice. So you get this very leathery fragrance with a little bit of a sweet gourmandy element behind it. So it is really, really nice in that regards. Now, in terms of how this one starts to dry down, this is really what I get for, a good span of the fragrance, 3-4 hours, is that very leathery feel. And then, what starts to happen is that the woodiness starts to set in. So it does definitely come across to me as oud. I don't know what kind of oud is using, real, synthetic, anything like that. But for me, there is a sort of distinct kind of almost pungent vibe that a lot of oud has, a lot of oud fragrances has. And it's something that I associate with oud, whether that be true, natural oud or not. I don't know. It just has a lot to do with the fragrances that I'm familiar with. And again, this is where it does remind me a little bit of Royal Leather. Royal Leather is a very potent leather and oud fragrance, among other things. And it does have a similar dimension where in the dry down, the oud becomes much stronger. And in fact, I would say that that is the star. With a little bit of leatheriness, it really starts to tone back. But don't get it confused. They're very, very different. It's just that the type of leather and the way that it transitions to the oud is the same, in my opinion. But the oud comes across, like I said, just slightly pungent, not skanky, but it's not as easily likable or easily wearable as like a cedar wood or birch, which has a really nice, clean kind of a smell. This rather does have a little bit of a pungent vibe, but not skanky. It doesn't come across animalic, just different. Now, there is something that does also give it a little bit of a spicy, woody vibe. I don't know if that's something to do with the notes that are in this one or what's in the apple crisp. I don't know if that's what that's a combination of, but you do get a little bit of this sort of woody spiciness. And I do pick up what comes across a little bit also like a patchouli playing into the base here, which does make it a really, really nice fragrance overall. Now, one thing to note, stainless steel is in this one just like this one. I don't detect it really in either one of these fragrances. For me, on my skin, it's definitely not there. This one I get even less rose than this one. I find that this has, Rosé All Day, has a very slight rosiness in the mid, whereas this one I don't really get the rose at all. And I also find the plum to be a lot more drawn back. I get a lot more of an appley, crispy, cinnamony vibe underneath everything than that plum, which for me, again, in Rosé All Day is very, very strong in the opening, very plum heavy, along with that, syrupy, apple crisp vibe that it really has. So altogether, I actually really like this one. At first, I was taken a little bit back by how leathery it actually is. And, if you really like leathery fragrances, this is one I would say is definitely worth trying out because it does have a really high quality leather and it's very leather dominant. And in the dry down, very woody, very oudy. So if you like either one of those notes, this could be a good choice for you to try out. I would say sample it first. Definitely sample it first. If you like the kind of idea of this fragrance, but you found it, some people find these sort of sweet gourmand fragrances maybe a little too feminine. This is definitely going to come across a lot more masculine because, again, it's dominated by leather and oud and has everything else in the background. So it does come across a little bit more that way. One thing I should also mention that I did forget to mention, in the opening, this leather, there's something about it that comes off very slightly, not overly, but very slightly with a very slight smokiness along with that, along with the leather. It is really nice composition. Again, masterfully done. I do like Daniel Gallagher's work, and he's got a lot of interesting, unique fragrances. Personally, I will say I think I enjoy Rosé All Day more just because I do personally love gourmands. And this one is like straight gourmand heaven. Whereas this one you get definitely a lot more of that leather and oud. Now, in terms of situations, honestly, it's going to be a lot of the same situations, although, same weather anyways. This would easily be, a heavy winter fragrance. This fragrance is quite strong in the opening and it's very long lasting, so easily getting into that 10-hour mark. So it's a very, very good performing fragrance, very heavy, and it does have a lot of thickness with that leather oud and also the underlying sweet components. So you have to be aware of that. I don't know that I would say, personally, Rosé All Day, I could see wearing this on, especially if, whoever you're going on a date with does like sweeter fragrances. This is a delicious fragrance. This one, I'm not entirely sure I would say this is so suitable for a date fragrance, largely because in my opinion and what I've seen, a lot of women don't really like heavy leather fragrances, and this is one. But this is a strong and confident fragrance that I think, you could pull it off in a fancier occasion. You could also pull it off on an evening out. Not necessarily a date though, but you can wear it. I personally would be wearing this one daytime, winter, and maybe a night out. Really do like this one for both of those two occasions. Anyways, both great fragrances. I was happy with this release, although as I mentioned, I still prefer this one over Rosé Noir, but I am happy with what was done here. And I think it's a really creative, really interesting fragrance. So great. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. I'm going to ask you guys to leave a comment down below. What are some of your favorite from Gallagher fragrances, or are there any fragrances that you like that you know, they're gourmandish, but they have these either leather or woody fragrances that really take it away from being just a full-on gourmand, where this one smells, you know, a lot like an apple pie. Leave a comment down below. Always on the lookout for more fragrances to try out. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.